Oh, so welcome to this meeting of the Cemetery Board. And I'm Dan Shapiro, Secretary of State Cesar Perales, designated as chair.
Paul Ambrose, Commissioner Howard Zuckers, representative for the Department of Health.
And Chris Wild, representing the Attorney General, Eric Schneiderman.
Louis Polishuk, Director, Division of Cemeteries.
Mike Seelman, Senior Investigator, Division of Cemeteries.
Brendan Stanton, Investigator, Division of Cemeteries.
Joe Ambrose, Associate Accountant, Division of Cemeteries.
Tony Melillo, Counsel to the Cemetery Board.
You still have to identify yourselves even though
Oh,
you're
even though
in the
you're
back.
in the back.
Robbie Skivich, Intern, Division of Cemeteries.
Monet McAdoo, Division of Cemeteries.
Senior Accountant, Division of Cemeteries.
Before beginning the notice, I'd like to point out the beautiful bow tie being worn by our state council.
Oh, yeah.
It is Bow Tie Tuesday, Council's Office of the Department of State. I have neglected to remind you that. I sincerely apologize.
It will be national.
Okay. So getting on to business, if folks
Will
have an
this do,
opportunity.
Mr. Chair?
That's great. Suits you well. Chance to review the minutes, everybody? Comments? Corrections?
There was one sentence that I think we need to look at.
Yeah.
Vandalism report. And it states that it was a discussion that we had on repair at the owner's expense versus replacement at flat market at state expense.
Yes.
That was the conversation. And I think that the comments that we made pertain generally to all cemeteries, not just to this cemetery.
Yeah, and I saw that too. I was.
How about if I change this, suggest that cemeteries should start providing justification?
Or what was it for? I don't even recall.
It's what it was. What Paul said, for the additional expense of repair, as opposed for repair versus replacement, where replacement is significantly less expensive than repair.
All right. Would you write it up that way?
Yeah. Hold on. So that.
I think Tony read something from the regulations that said, that specified a flat marker. Was it?
Yeah, but that was on a different.
Those are a different context?
Yeah,
Okay.
different issue.
Okay. Thank you.
Why don't we leave it to you to rewrite it, which I don't mind doing that.
Where the cost of replacement are going.
Anything else before I go into my little nitpicky ones? All right, I got a little nitpicky ones. Mr. Melillo, I would cross out, has also reported, just reported.
Hold on. Sorry. Much lower than.
Are you also amending lenses today? You writing this minutes too? For next
Try to remember what the hell you said because I will forget it otherwise. Hold on. The replacement of the flat marker is much lower than the cost of repair. There we go. So you were, Mr. Melillo is reporting something.
Yeah, just Mr. Melillo.
Also reported, done.
Yeah, reporting.
Both times.
Right, and then after the colon in Senate, I would just say A 674 S 1104 would enhanced criminal penalties. Right. Same deal going to the next S 49020 would give religious cemeteries.
Yep.
All right. And the next one, Mr. Melillo, take out as also.
Yep.
I put a period after A 3110. Capitalize this bill.
No, I took out this bill, just like do the other.
Okay, cool. That's fine. Yeah. I would say Mr. Melillo in 2 under rules and regulations. Before Ted, just to make it realistic. On division report, did some outreach at a regional meeting with NYSAC in Syracuse.
There was a, where?
Cindy Craig, an investigator in the Buffalo office, did some outreach, and then I crossed out there was at a regional meeting with NYSAC in Syracuse.
Meeting of NYSAC.
Okay.
And the group attended was less than expected.
I crossed that out.
I'm crossing that out because actually I was corrected on the record That it was not true, that it was less than expected,
Oh,
it was
it's-
smaller than expected.
There you go, okay, I crossed it out.
I said that,
I
it's
also,
not true.
I don't know that with hope at the end that NYSAF will reach out to local government officials, I don't remember.
Yes,
Okay,
how about with outreach to
To-
local?
cool, that's good.
Anything else?
Sorry, I'm not doing
I
that.
think Tony also reported on A3095, Senate 3300, watching the video of the
Right.
opening.
Is that's the one that Pat,
Is it on the governor's desk?
yes, you
So
absolutely.
why don't we amend it to include, Mr. Lillo reported that A3095 has passed both houses and is on the governor's desk. Does that sound good?
What's the bill again?
Check that.
Dave, is that the right bill?
A3095.
Yeah, A3095. It's not on his desk currently. If you wanna move it there, that would be
Yeah. Ours passed both.
We
Has
don't get
passed
to
both
move it there
houses.
unless we actually break into somebody's
That's
office
true.
and then carry it,
Is that the first time you're using it?
which would be kind of fun.
No, I've used it, been using it for months.
You haven't been watching.
Okay, in that case, can I have a motion? So move. Second? Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, Mr. Malillo, it's your turn.
Nothing to report. Legislature adjourned. So, no changes since last month. No changes on the regs that have been submitted for review. We did have a meeting earlier today about the changes to NPCL section 1507.
Yes.
That brings in portions of NIFA, Green Investment Funds Act. And we're actually moving closer to an agreement on what vision guidance should look like for applications to use a portion of that change. So,
That meeting was with interested parties?
yes.
Oh, good, that's great. Okay. So we can,
Very pretty.
can we expect a recommendation, you think, within the next couple weeks? No,
I
at
think
least
by
in
the
time
next
for the
board
next
meeting,
board meeting,
yes,
something
I think
else.
so.
So that's good. Because time is getting to be a factor.
Sure.
Folks will be getting in touch. Okay, great.
Well, that was the first half of my report.
Okay, there's nothing wrong with brevity.
The second, I had something else I wanted to talk about. We unfortunately have another alleged theft to report. This is the alleged victim. I say alleged repeatedly because this is a pending criminal investigation by the state police and I believe the Sullivan County DA's office of Liberty Cemetery in Liberty. Brandon Stanton, Andrew Hickey, who's the accountant for that area, and I will be meeting with the board on Thursday to try to take stock and see where they go from there. We're hoping also to be in contact with local law enforcement to make sure that appropriate measures are taken. Most notably, we want to maximize the restitution that we get.
Yes.
No
Not good.
insurance or bond down there?
Not that I know of. That's one of the questions we'll ask them, that we'll have them, even if they don't have a fidelity bond, we will have them review their policy to make sure they don't have commercial crime insurance included. Because if they do, they should make a claim. But to the best of our knowledge, they don't. Your office gonna do a criminal case in Sullivan County?
Well, the DA is going to do it.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, it'd be the same thing as up north here. The DA started and didn't.
I don't think that's gonna be the case here. I think this will, on the other hand, I like you guys. I'm always happy to see you put bad guys in jail or prosecute cases appropriately. But I don't think any of the AG's offices in that area have criminal records.
No. No, you said the code on that one.
So, we're gonna meet with the DA, as I said.
What
And,
is that?
I had a third thing to report, but I don't
the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2016, vandalism fees collected were $150,609. Applications granted totaled $173,414. Applications pending total $102,331. Of the applications granted, 2 were for restoration, totaling $121,954, and 1 abandonment application for $51,450.
Thank you.
We have, how many this month? 1 or 2?
We have 2.
2.
We have Albany Rural and Beacon Cemetery.
Oh, that was the other thing I wanted to report, if I might interject. We have 2 recent vandalisms. One is a graffiti in Albany Rural, which is obviously not as bad as lots of headstones knocked over. And the other is at Riverside Cemetery in Plattsburgh, where I think 65 headstones were knocked over. We've already reached out to them.
All right, so we'll be seeing them.
Yes.
Okay. So we have 2. We have dangerous monuments and vandalism. Did anybody have any comments on either one of those?
Albany Rural Cemetery had previously applied 2014 for $37,500 roughly. So 50 went dangerous this year.
They
Had not
it's
corrected
an
all of
extremely large cemetery. They submit these applications a couple of sections at a time to make them more manageable for them and us. If they came in all at once, it would probably wipe out the fund several years over.
Yeah, it wouldn't be. You'd have to come up with someone to find it. All right. All right, if that's the case, can I have a motion?
I will move to these annual reports. Right.
Second? Second. All in favor, say aye.
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 We have things that require your signature, gentlemen.
Very good. All right. First on the agenda is Walton, which we chatted about a little bit last time. The
Are you
division
presenting it?
here to tell us about it?
I guess I could kick it off. Yes, the cemetery submitted an application for to establish a new crematory on cemetery property. And the division has reviewed their application, and we would recommend approval, as it appears that they have developed a plan, and it seems to meet, what we would think to be a justification for the project, and there's a need for it, we believe. So
The biggest, to try to summarize the things that we've done since we last met. Brenda totaled up went to the 3 local crematories, we looked at the funeral directors who Walton's identified as likely to bring them business, and totaled up how many cremations that alone, with no increase, with no additional business, would result in annually. We now estimate 200 cremations. We also think they were setting their price too low. I believe they were proposing to charge $295.
$295.
We think a price of $375 should be easy for them to get and much more sensible in terms of actually generating revenue. With that calculation in mind, we don't have the sort of the cafeteria menu options of different projections. We're projecting conservatively just 200 cases annually. Where's the number? And that's net of recovery. We also projected a recovery of construction costs over a 10-year period. In other words, they pay off their P&M loan in a 10-year period. The reason being, obviously, the crematory has a much longer life than that, but we want them to pay off their debts. So even if you net out that repayment and you ignore the fact that starting in 2017, they strongly anticipate obtaining free biogas from the town, they're going to be clearing just under $6,000 a year. That's going to only go up as they pay down the costs of it as they get the free biogas, and that's without any increase in cremation rates. A couple of other specific questions the board asked last time is, what's going on with cremations in that area? They've been roughly flat. They've gone from 2,300 to 2,600 a year. If you look at the three adjoining crematories, where is it? It's, sorry, no, it's 1,500 to 1,700.
Basically a 1.8% increase.
It's the 1.86% is national.
That's
But,
And that's a
but
concern.
looking at the area, it's gone up and down and up and down. It stayed in a range of 1556 and 1775. The other thing that we were directed to look at, because the statute says so, was a fact, the statute specifically commands that we look at other crematories in the county. There are none. We did look at the adjoining crematories. We project that one of the three crematories within an hour's radius will see no change in its business. It has a relatively low volume to begin with, and most of its business, it's a standalone. All three of them are standalone, in fact. This one in particular, most of its business comes from its own funeral director. Very few other directors use it. A second crematory is based, again, we're basing this solely on the funeral directors that, the other two crematories, based solely on the assumption that the funeral directors would send all their cases to Walton, which they might or might not. There could be an effect of between 8 and 27%. Again, this assumes no increase in cremations. This assumes no other shifts in the market. And again, I'll reiterate, these other ones are not associated with any cemeteries. Indeed, if you took a larger ratio, that's slightly more, farther than I think people would travel. You still have one or two other standalones. You don't get to cemetery-operated crematories until about an hour and a half drive.
So,
Other than that? I didn't do
No. I thought I put it in the packet, but
you noted that it's 45 to 65 minutes out.
That's,
In other
these
words,
three
the
are
below-
within roughly, the three that we've identified are just, if you drew a radius of just about an hour's drive, maybe a little bit more, that it catches those three.
Right.
You have to go much farther out to catch any others.
Okay.
I'm ignoring any that are in
But
Pennsylvania.
as far as the locals for this one, this is a matter of convenience as well.
Well, absolutely right. I mean, we're talking about going from Walton to Binghamton or up to
Morris.
Morris is not a shorter summer drive.
Yeah, you alluded to, I'm gonna tease it out a little bit, you alluded to standalone, and then the cemetery having its crematory. And I assume what you're really saying is that, well, look, this crematory is designed to support the cemetery,
That's correct.
right? I mean, that's the distinction you're drawing, all right, which is important to note. And I'd like to pursue a little bit as to what the fiscal impact of that is. I get that they'll make some money, and they'll make some money for a number of years, and that can support operations. But right now, they have well, what is their PM? What's their PM in their general operating fund? Photocopy.
the permit is $237,000,
Okay, and how much have they got in their,
and the general fund is $247,000.
okay.
Which is money they've been saving, I
Right,
guess.
right. And how many acres are there?
39
39.
acres.
Oh, it's a lot of acres, right?
Big
And I always ask this question because I always forget the great Michael Southern of that. But what the estimated would take at the end to support the cemetery?
Well, the number has changed,
Yeah.
the interest rates have dropped, but generally now I would say 21 that's actually sold.
So,
So in this case.
30 acres are sold, essentially. 29 acres
Correct.
are sold.
Right.
so 20
So
times
that
30
would-
is 600.
Yeah.
So they're underfunded, which means that they really ought to be looking for other sources of revenue.
Agreed.
All right,
Yes.
because the interesting line of reasoning might have been, well, what if they're not underfunded and they're VM funds? All right, what is the point of adding, a crematory if there's already sufficient cremation services.
Well, there are other services that they can provide, I mean, they don't really have much by way of niches now.
Right. No, I'm just actually supporting your implication. I think it's important, and I think the cemetery could use another line of revenue. Seems to me to be a smart way to go. Although, I will say, they're taking $135 from each fund to make this happen. They've been saving money in their general fund.
Agreed.
That's
Correct.
commendable.
And they're
taking
getting
a
support from the
big hit
municipality.
on the PM fund.
It's rare that you have a cemetery that actually has a local government that's supportive.
Yeah.
Crematory.
What's the payback?
Well, without the free gas.
You mean when you was there?
No,
Rate of return is set.
I mean, what do we anticipate the payback for the PM fund?
It's $1,000 a month, $12,000 a year. I think it's 11.25 years, 11 and a quarter years.
Didn't we say we really like number 10?
Agreed. But this actually, I mean, the rate of return actually includes payback, which generally would not happen. The rate of return would be higher if we take that out, because paying back alone isn't an expense, you know. So, again, this looks like a fairly positive.
We
project
certainly
with
would
the
recommend that that our recommendation report include a provision that allows them to pay back faster, and a provision to monitor their payback to try to get them to pay back faster, as we did with, we had another application, the first Greenwood Union application, we did that, we gave them 10 years, but said, try to do it sooner.
Which also brings up, we haven't seen the PM loan.
We haven't seen the papers.
Papers yet.
So we do have a phone number to call if we want to.
I don't know that we need that yet.
Okay.
I think it would just be inclined to approve it. It would be contingent
Just
upon-
so
I don't think they wanted to incur the expense if there was some concern outside of the project itself.
So this is an application for a PM loan as well as. is that what we're seeking?
There,
Yes.
yes.
Although obviously division is only recommending that the board recommend approval conditioned on your satisfactory review of the draft petition.
Right.
Because we haven't seen one yet.
I mean, the other thing you
We
can
also,
do.
sorry, there's one more condition, which is they have not given us a full set of certified plans. They did not want to incur that expense unless they had a provisional okay from you guys. They have given us some degree of detail, but they gave us a site plan, they gave us a sketch, but they haven't given us like full engineering plans.
Right.
They wanted they asked that we recommend approval conditioned on them satisfying us with that later. Which I think makes sense in terms of saving the money for the engineer.
And we actually
I'm fine
advise
with it.
cemeteries
I mean,
not to encourage much cost.
Project, I think the engineer's done the plans, he just won't release until he's paid.
Where in the application is the discussion of the PM? That's, I didn't talk to you about that.
It's pretty much mentioned. And the way I think it's mentioned, it's pretty much mentioned in passing, it just gives the amount,
Okay.
Right.
So the amount of borrowing is how much?
like 35.
About 35,000?
Approximately.
And $1,000 a month, you know?
And how much did they have in their general fund?
It's 247,000.
Why are they only taking 130? Because they did 50-50 split. They did 135.
Well, essentially, that's what they did, yeah.
But why wouldn't you take more from the general fund if you have that?
I mean,
They
we
certainly
could
don't need.
look at
Do
that.
they have any other
Actually,
capital projects in mind?
Pardon?
Do they have any other capital projects in mind?
I don't think so.
I don't know.
So why do they need 80,000 left in the general fund?
We're incurring losses. The last 3 years they've had losses, so I think they just want to hang
Yeah,
on
I
to
think,
what they
yeah,
have.
right.
The other thing you could do, at what point do you expect the free gas to kick in?
2017.
2017.
You could increase the payments after 3 years,
Right.
$1,200 a month.
That's what
If
that
they can
caveat-
afford it, absolutely.
That's what that caveat, okay.
Yeah.
You know, we can build that into the order.
That was
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And the PM is interest-free?
Yeah.
Are they always interest-free?
Yes.
Yeah, and I've had that discussion. I brought it up a couple of times, like, gee, the PM is not increasing, it's not growing, you know.
I think, Chris, you'll see this when we discuss Graceland's application, you'll see that we're factoring that in, instead of charging interest, we're factoring that into our analysis in terms of looking at what they're losing in income by not having the money in PM. Although we may not get that, because we discussed that last time.
So
27% at the outside, decrease to the business of one of the.
Yeah.
Is that sustainable for them?
Again, I'd have to say yes, because the standalone crematory is really only responsible for maintaining its own building expenses. They've sunk their costs already, they've been operating for years. And this is not a crematory that, as far as we know, is operating on the margins of survival. The person who operates it, I mean, they have a funeral home business, they have other business interests as well. It's not like if you eliminate the crematory revenue, the cemetery goes down the tubes. They're putting aside a PM contribution for a standalone crematory that, what are they ever going to use PM for? They're going to use to fix the building. They don't have the same degree of maintenance obligations.
There's always going to be, there's always going to be a amount of competition.
But if you look at the map, it's a bit of a harsh result. But if you look at the map, assuming that they all go there, I mean, if this funeral director ends up splitting his cases, but the business grows, which is frankly the most likely scenario, we haven't done that because it's hard to approximate that, then everyone ends up in a good position.
And council's office has urged the division of the board that the policy of the state is that crematories watch to support cemeteries, not funeral homes. That's the purpose of the combo law. And if this crematory were to pull business from funeral home operated crematories, that would not violate state laws.
Do we have any further discussion on this?
I mean, I think when you formulate your motion, just assuming you're going to formulate a motion, let's take into account what Tom was saying, give to us the details so we can put together a letter to them.
I'll do a motion as follows. A motion to approve. Second. We've got three caveats, three conditions. One.
Actually, let's make this two motions. Let's make it a motion to approve the crematory and a motion to recommend approval on the PM.
Interesting.
Well, he's recommending approval of the crematory too because it's subject to review of the.
Now, let me motion, then we can fix it. I'm going to motion to approve and to recommend approval of the permanent maintenance loan at the criteria. The caveat that council approve once the paperwork is submitted. And two, that the division, that recommendation include a recommendation that the division retain authority to with the cemetery increase repayments to the current maintenance fund as can be afforded by the cemetery. Final caveat is submission of the engineering. Was it architectural or engineering?
Same thing.
Engineering
Full
plan,
set plans.
full set plans for review and approval by the division. That's it. Right? I got it all?
Yep.
Okay, so, second? Second. All in favor say aye? Aye.
And of course, if they actually do the numbers and can do this with a smaller PM loan, we will encourage them to do that.
Yes. Okay, very good. Graceland.
Alicia, you want to come on down so we can actually hear you? Chet, let's get the papers off the mic.
Well, Harry provided some additional information today. He sent me the actual amount outstanding on the loan,
Okay.
what the payment,
Well, I tell you, before we go there,
Let
why
me
don't we put it back in time?
I'll give, here, Alicia, I'll give like the 30,000 foot view and then you
Okay.
can fill in the details. 30,000 foot view is Graceland Cemetery is in the city of Albany. They've had a couple of bad years. They took out, years ago, they took out a loan to do their roads and various other capital projects, which they replaced with another bank loan. They refinanced to get a better rate, presumably took out a little more cash also, I think, to do some more capital improvements. The repayment on that loan is currently $24.90 a month.
24/7.
$24.70 a month. Their idea, as proposed at the April board meeting, was to replace that loan with a PM loan that would eliminate risk that they face in the resetting of their interest rate, and potential resetting of their interest rate in 2017, allow them to reduce those costs significantly because they were proposing a 15-year repayment, and also generate a certain amount of additional cash. At the April board meeting, the board raised several issues. Number one, we discovered in the course of this that the cemetery was approximately 11 months behind in funding its PM contributions. And the board also expressed some concern about the amount of the loan and whether it would really be, whether this, given that the shortfall wasn't that great, whether there really wasn't any way to reduce expenses further and either make this unnecessary or at least be able to reduce the scope. So a couple of weeks ago, we met with the entire cemetery board. We've gone over their expenses in detail. As it stands right now, they're not really in a position to reduce expenses this year. We're going to keep twisting their tail to reduce them further in the future, but this year it's not possible. They have a year to contract on this expense.
Doesn't look like there's potential though.
But there is potential. Harry is free to chime in if he wants to. Is that they've had a real bang-up year this year. And they've had some really good sales. They are now operating, even with the current loan, in the positive. And we can vouch for the fact that, other than a little bit of a question on their basic maintenance contract, which we initially thought it seemed high, having gone over just what it covers, it might still be a tiny bit on the high end, but it's definitely closer to within the range of what other people are paying than we thought, because we didn't realize a bunch of things that, other than routine maintenance, were included.
Okay, so your point is that the cemetery is fiscally well run.
And it looks great at this point.
Looks great. I noticed in the report that it was anticipated that next year would also be a year in black.
Or projecting out.
Projecting out from 3 scales. Which here's where I see the difficulties are with the application.
Okay.
Believe me, I'll give you an opportunity to speak.
Although maybe you won't need to.
But the difficulties are that we're taking a current loan as a payback 5 years. It's going to be payback in 2020, and we're extending that out 15 years. And putting the permanent maintenance fund at risk of doing so. And that's because, well, the important reason is that, well, we're going to get hit with an increase potentially in 2017, which will be very hurtful. I understand.
Well, that's one of 2 reasons.
That's one of 2 reasons, and the second reason is
to reduce their monthly payment.
right. But the monthly payment, if they continue in the pattern, we're looking backwards and saying, well, they're 10 grand short a year or 6 grand short or whatever it is. But now they're not. Right now they're in the black. So I'm not sure that rationale works when you balance it against pushing out the repayment for 15 years. You were going to give us some new.
So we have some numbers.
Yeah. So the outstanding loan right now is $136,941. That is as of today, right, Harry?
So what does that include? Does that mean, because to my mind, I just thought when you prepay a loan, and I have no idea about commercial loans or anything, but that many loan agreements will provide that you no longer pay the interest that would have accrued. I mean, so what are we paying off?
Well, what was sent to Harry from the Capital Bank
Yep.
is, they said the current bank balance is $136,941. Payoff balance is $136,957.
There's a little bit of interest there.
So there's a little bit of interest on it.
But the question I have is that if you didn't pay it out right now, would that total payout be bigger because you would ultimately be adding the interest on the principal as you were going along?
Yeah,
or did we pay off all the interest first and this is just principal? That's why.
Oh, that, I didn't get the answer from my, it's
No,
all
but
principal
the
first.
interest is definitely, as it would be with a house.
Right, I can give
Yes,
you
it
the
is.
amortization schedule.
And as it goes on and extends down, one principal, then it's
So you're still paying down, you're not paying pure principal at this point, you're still paying.
correct, paying interest.
But I
So-
did an amortization schedule for the 5 years remaining,
Oh,
Okay.
assuming everything remains constant, not the uptick in interest in 2017, because
Right.
we can't predict that. And over the life of the 5 years remaining, they will save approximately $7,000 in interest payments.
Okay, oh, so you answered my question.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be cheaper,
Right.
if we said, all right, we'll do a 1-for-1. We say, you know what, I want this to terminate in 2020, you do your payback, at least you save $7,000 on that, and you remove the risk that the interest rates are gonna go up.
Right, and the new monthly payment, if we just let them borrow the amount that they owe, just to pay off the loan, nothing more, the $136,000, the new monthly payment would be $2,228, $2,282.
So it's a savings
For
of just
5
under
years.
$200 a month.
Yeah, not a whole lot of savings.
It's
But-
$185 a month,
But
but
you're insulating yourself from, oh, you said 200 a month, right, a couple grand. But you're insulating yourself from the increase. In my mind, I'm just trying to come to grips with what I think, the best course of action is, not necessarily what you think, and we'll give you a shot to chat with us. But I just wanted to bounce right before we open it up,
Someone help you understand, the balance of $50,000 that would be on loan would be used for immediate current maintenance. Why borrow that money as opposed to just paying?
Yeah, I haven't gotten there yet. I think, well,
And
I should
basically-
you answer that question.
Yeah, basically, this was presented back in January, February, at a time when there wasn't $50,000. And they were mounting, actually, there were 120-day accounts receivable that amounted to approximately $50,000. And we don't have the luxury of having a $237,000 current maintenance fund, along with the permanent maintenance fund. So the cemetery has always operated at no current maintenance fund, or that fund was strong. So we've had to be ingenious all along, every time we do things, to try to create one.
We like
That
that.
doesn't, well, but it's not
Maybe
always
yes,
there,
maybe no.
unfortunately.
Not when it's an 11, not when they delay paying their permanent maintenance contributions.
That's a problem, and we need to
Funds.
address that too.
Yes.
But that, and I
Well,
think
we
that-
understand that, right?
Right. But right now, your fiscal picture looks like
Well,
what?
it's better, but that doesn't mean that historically it wasn't like that also, because every other year it seems certain things happen. I don't know whether it's a phenomenon in the industry, or whether it just happens to us, but this year we've sold almost twice as many spaces as we did in the previous year. Well, maybe next year I won't sell that many. So to say that we're on a good fiscal path is great, but we still only have two things that are current. Currently, we still only have two sources of income, interments and spaces. Beyond that, we're in trouble because we can't sell monuments and we don't have a crematory. So those two issues, and of course, everybody knows cremations are moving, and we're affected by it just like everybody else is. And we're underfunded.
Right, but you understand, at least I, haven't opened up yet, very, very cautious about permanent maintenance on borrowing. And, for the thing, we're talking about the third. I don't see the classification as the third. And with a 15-year payback, and I think that significant risk to the cemetery. If the cemetery, and I don't think it will, but the cemetery were to go under 8 years from now, it would go under, and their permanent maintenance fund would be dramatically reduced. If that borrowing didn't happen, it went under 8 years, within 8 years, they have a much healthier permanent maintenance fund. They had a lot of pain getting there. So that was my initial reactions, and why I'm opposing the prospect of a much faster payback would be. But I do understand. I mean, you're operating on day to day, and you're in the black today, and tomorrow you could be in the red, right? So you want a little cushion.
Well, Dan, well, maybe we should approach the board first.
Now you want to,
My feeling is if the board were inclined to give only a partial recommendation of approval to the court to the extent of recommending that the payback be much shorter, I would also ask that your recommendation or suggestion that, assuming council thinks this is actually acceptable, that the division be given discretion to agree with the cemetery to extend the term of repayment without having to go back to the court. There's the concern I have, and I think they have, was to make repeated court appearances if they end up being a month or two out of whack, what have you. I would like to see them either do it that way or ask that the board make the repayment schedule longer than it's comfortable with, but direct us to twist their tail to put it on a shorter repayment schedule to the extent that's feasible.
I like your former suggestion. Providing authority, if the both for an entity to lengthen the term of repayment. I think that entity won't be before these cases. Again, this is a permanent maintenance fund, significant amount of money, maybe just come back to the board.
If you want to shorten it and then you will extend it.
Right. We make that recommendation so that there is a relatively easy out of the cemetery without having to go back to court for the expense, that the board would have approval authority to say, you know what, all right, we're in a bad patch, we can push it out a year, 2 years, or whatever.
I had a very different question.
I was gonna go to the 18,000 at the minute. You going there?
Not even there yet.
Oh, okay.
I think what you're suggesting probably can be structured in a way that, you know, Supreme Court judge might do. If it has a due date, but on the approval of the board, a due date extended, as long as those are fixed dates, like 5 years, 10 years.
I see.
I think that would probably pass muster, as long as you have fixed dates. Leaving it unknown, unfortunately, would leave the order extending for another year. I don't think the court would like that. But my question, how much is their PM fund earning in the last week?
PM fund was
3.6.
It was 3%, we just changed our investment policy, it's a little higher now.
The reason I ask that is, all right, so the balance that you want to pay off is about $137,000. The interest that you would pay if you did pay it off is $7,000.
a little less, 6,000.
So that represents 5% of the principal. If you're taking that out of the PM fund will only have to earn 1% a year. If you left that money in to earn that 7,000. In other words, by taking that money out, you're losing gains on your PM fund. You're gaining 3% versus the 1% a year for 5 years to get that $7,000.
Well, based on the analysis our accountant did, you know, if we consider the 14,000 in income coming from the permanent maintenance fund, with $6,000 going out in interest, you know, then the remainder is 8,000, and that might be 3 to 4% at that point.
I'm not sure.
Well, I'm just thinking that the 8,000, there's an $8,000 difference between we get 14,000 in, and then we pay out 6,000. So that's an $8,000 difference at this point in time. So we'd make 8,000 versus 14,000, which has been the previous income from the permanent maintenance. So that 8,000 would be what percent?
The 3.6% that you mentioned before is net of the interest payments on the loan.
Correct.
Okay, so the actual, what you're pulling is, the 14,000 is a much greater percentage rate.
Maybe I'll just take another crack at this one. So, if you don't pull the money out of, if you don't pull the $137,000 out of the TIF fund, it's gonna earn much more than that $7,000 of interest that we're saving by pulling it out.
Until 2017, which, based on current environment, we don't know what the interest
But
rate
if the
plus
interest rate
2.5% over the 5-year treasury, I don't know what that's gonna mean. You know, and I don't think any of us do, but, you know, certainly, if we had to struggle out the current loan payments, certainly we could do that. But once again, I'm more interested in trying to keep the cemetery looking like a cemetery, an actual thriving business, as opposed to something that's gonna start looking like 6-foot grass and things that we actually walked into 15 years ago.
Anyway, I just wanted to put that out there. And, yeah, the 18,000 is the definition.
Yeah, the 18,000 needs to be paid back.
Of course. And I'm not sure that the number is correct. My AP says it's 15.
15 plus 6.
I mean,
I thought we got 18 from you.
No, you didn't get it from me.
I got it from Holly.
What I would just,
I'm not sure.
Well, we can pin that down.
if we're inclined to grant
We
this
certainly
application
should.
along the lines that we had said, I would be inclined to just tack that on to the back of the payment schedule, essentially, and say, continue to pay until all the deficit's paid up. So I'll see, just tacking $18,000 on. It's not a borrow, it's a new obligation. Obviously, the tail end of the payments, so that it's not injurious to the cemetery.
Well, let me, if I may, state that slightly differently, just, yeah, include it in the amount they're borrowing, number one. But number two.
Why do you
is
exclude
just-
them after borrowing? They just have an obligation.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
But I would, well, then you're probably getting the same thing that I was getting to a different way. I was saying if you treated that as part of what they were borrowing, which is how Alicia and I were sort of crunching the numbers before the meeting, what you would do, you would ask that you give them an extra year as the beginning point, start with 6 years, not 5 years. That way, they're still getting a little bit of benefit, a little bit more benefit in terms of reducing their monthly payments without significantly draining this thing
Yeah,
out.
I don't.
But if you're
I
putting
don't
that
mind
other
that
piece,
it's
the
just an
repayment,
obligation for them to repay.
but if you're putting that piece at the end, then it may not matter, because if you're not counting that as part of their monthly repayments, then their monthly is at even at 5 years already $200 savings. Well, 185.
So we sort of cooking this up as we go, but what do you guys think? I'd like to get cemetery kids.
We're gonna put it on the short term, 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, that's sort of my thought.
Then the cemetery will come back to us if it's a problem. Or should we put a balloon payment up there, which means they have to do that?
Oh, I see what you're saying. So, in other words, keep their monthly payments low, put a balloon payment at the end of the 5 years, and then it can get restructured if it has to.
Yeah, or it can be in 3 years, which is when their present loan is due.
The president was doing 5 years.
5 years?
Resets.
Oh, that's right,
Yeah.
that's right.
Well, that's an interesting concept. That way, it keeps for the next 2 years. It's almost like a mini payment holiday. It keeps their payments down lower in the next 2 years as they sort of rebuild their position, and the payments go up, or a true balloon payment.
But the only problem I see with that is that it's easy for them, no disrespect intended, but in 3 years you come back, you say, I can't meet this, I still don't have any money, and then you're pretty much forcing the extension this way. If you do a straight loan payment, as we've discussed, repayment, it's not the easiest situation for the cemetery, but they do get a benefit. There's not so much, it still forces them to live extremely poorly. Sorry, but that's the point. But once they make the payments and you're done, then you're free. 2021 will be a banner year, and then they can start making money.
And by then, they may very well have made solar farm or inventory or.
Yeah, that's
What have you.
this long list here. What encourages them to go do that stuff, and try to do this?
We can't look forward to the future the way the current business market climate is without having something substantial come into the cemetery. Now, again, we're all servants here, I'm a servant too, I serve the cemetery just to, as long as we can possibly do it, to keep it afloat and to see into the future and put something together that will make it sort of self-sufficient, and that's kind of what we've been trying to do. We've had a choice, or we've had an opportunity to try to sell a parcel of land. A buyer was willing to pay almost $2 million for it, but we didn't have access to the particular parcel. So that became a problem. So now we're gonna do whatever we can to figure out another method of becoming self-sufficient. We don't want to borrow.
I know you're working hard, and I can hear it from the record. Right? He's very much in the corner. And that's why I suggested that we have this opportunity when we come back to the board. And I say the board, the division's fully capable, it's not the issue, but we're dealing with a substantial issue with respect to the maintenance fund. And I just didn't look forward to it. Anything else you want to say?
Except that we certainly would like to get in the crematory business somewhere along the line here, because.
Oh, it's an application.
Well,
we are going to get them some data. We've promised them. We've already done some initial looking.
I mean, Albany has, in the population basis, the highest ratio between population and number of crematories. One crematory to 300,000 population. No other place in the state, outside of New York, has those kinds of ratios. And there are many places where you're granting crematories for 40,000 population, and there's another crematory. So I'm not sure what the basis of not granting that crematory is.
The first basis is we don't have an application yet, but
well, we need
the data.
We've been asking.
The data definitely, the cremation data for the 4 local crematories is definitely, unlike down in where we were just talking about, there is a definite, consistent upward trend. I don't have the numbers in front of me, so I can't quantify them to you right now, but it is going up.
That would be a good thing. Must be lacking the TM fund one more time, but we'll deal with that later. All right.
Well, they had some interesting ideas on that also, but we're going to hit ourselves.
Yeah, let's refocus.
The permanent maintenance fund has 568,000.
Almost 590.
Yeah, 590.
So I guess we'll come back to the question I had before. Is it necessary to borrow the $50,000 and have to pay it back, as opposed to just spending the $50,000 from 568,000?
We weren't. I'm glad you're getting down to that, because I wasn't recommending the $50,000. My thought was that we are worried about the unknown with respect to the increase in the interest rate. So.
The board is concerned about the amount.
Right, and we can save them. The cemetery can save some money. I think. I have very, very little brain when we get to numbers. Tony's discussion was, I don't know, but I think they save some money by taking the loan out from the PM fund. I'm saying they have a balance of $136,941. That's what the PM loan is for. They pay that back in 5 years. We tack on an extra year payment. $18,000. And then they have an opportunity to come back for us if in fact they need some restructuring on that payment schedule. We should put defined dates in there, as Tony has suggested that division to do.
Well, ultimately be up to the AG's papers of court. Because then you'll know when you're before the court, you can put in dates certain that actually work.
And this is the text of our recommendation. And with those caveats and having the authority, the applicant has to be going back to the court for restructuring the loan.
Actually, I have a suggestion. I would suggest a fixed date of 6 years, a fixed repayment of 6 years, that we can actually increase to 10%.
6 years from the date of the court's order, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And that extra year would cover the 18,000 plus the 137,000.
And allow them to reduce their payments slightly more.
Right.
I'm okay with that. I mean, as we're sort of factoring this, is that acceptable? All All right, well, you got all the caveats, that's my motion.
Okay.
Try that
My
again.
recommendation.
So the loan would be 136,941.
Hold on. Recommend approval of PM loan at 136,
941.
941. Aren't there cents or something?
They have to borrow.
No, it's just-
pennies.
Payoff.
It's fine.
Payoff.
Yes.
The
Actually, it'll be
repayment-
at the payoff, which is
Yeah,
slightly
it's
higher.
slightly higher,
What is it, 136.9?
57.
57,
There you go.
Okay.
I'd throw in the extra 25.
There you go. The repayment will be the 136,957 plus the PM deficit, whatever you guys figure that out.
And it's a 6 to 10 year payback.
An approved payback of 6 years, which the cemetery board can increase to 10 years. On average. This is Supreme Court.
Up to 10 years.
Okay. And then we're gonna continue working with them on the possibilities of a solar farm and a solar farm or access to this parcel for sale, full stop. And if they wish to submit an application of recreation.
That's fine, not part of this motion. All right, so we've got the motion on the table. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, I hope this helps, all right? And,
Everything helps.
Okay, very good.
Whitechapel's gonna be easier?
Whitechapel? Waterville?
Not Whitechapel, Waterville.
I don't know. No, I think so.
Mike?
So Waterville, who's gonna give us some context?
Waterville's cemetery in Oneida County. They have they've always, until 2012, they had 2 retorts. They removed them. They were from the 40s, oil-fired retorts. And at that time, they revamped it's kind of like a Gothic stone building. They updated the building. They removed both retorts, replaced one, and then reconfigured the building so it now can only hold one. And since that time, they've really built their cremation business. And they're looking at an overhaul of that machine now, and they don't want to lose what they have built up by being closed for 2 or 3 weeks for the overhaul. And they see the need as their number of cremation rises to add a second and possibly a third building or retort down the road. So what they have across the driveway from the existing crematory building is a vacant lot that they bought in, I think, 2008. And it was, I think at the time, it was a barn or something on it. It was it's in a village, so it was someone's back lot, basically. So the land that they want to use to build this building to house the new retort was never intended for cemetery purposes. It was outside the bounds of the cemetery. However, now it's forward, it's right there. And they want to install a new retort in that building. I looked at the site. There are graves in the area. Approximately 30 feet from the back corner of this whole building, there is an existing grave. However, there's currently a cinder block vault that is actually closer to that grave. So it's not
That's
like
their receiving vault?
it's a receiving vault, yes. So it's not like this is gonna be more, and it's great 20 years old.
Right, okay.
And that's what they like. I do have the building plans, which probably weren't included.
No, they're not scannable.
That's just what the building is actually gonna be.
And they are, I'll note for the record that they are in fact sealed. Stamps.
It's a building, I see.
No drawings of where the building's going.
You had a description of that, Mike, didn't you?
There's I think this is what, did you look at this? Is this?
Yeah, there's a tour of, I think that was part of that.
Yeah, if you look at that, you can see where the axis is where the building will go. And then across the drive from where the axis is the existing building. Does it show?
So this is the existing building. There's a white spot that is
Is the receiving vault.
the receiving vault for one of the decks.
And then that's a sketch of it, showing the existing receiving vault.
So that's the.
So that's the existing vault, and then directly across that driveway is the current crematory.
And then one of the questions I had for you was what's being done with the existing building that the retort is in, and you said it's gonna stay.
It's gonna stay. They started doing cremations in 1893 in that building. And what they did was pretty much gut the inside of the building, and wainscoting, and vernic beams, and refurbished it. It's a beautiful building, and they intend to use that when they have people come to do cremations. They're still going to. It's a 2012 unit. It's got many years left in it, but they feel that by building the full building, it'll be easier for funeral directors to pull in, be able to back the hearse in out of sight. So they're going to have 2 complete crematories on site. So it will be traipsing across the parking lot.
Wait, so the retort that's in the existing building is gonna stay there?
It's going to stay there. It's going to continue to operate.
Do they have more than one operator?
They have 3.
Yeah, you mentioned that the cremation's been increasing 14% annually. For how long a period is that?
2012 is when they started.
That's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, but that won't be sustainable.
That's what I wanted to know.
I mean, it's
I
skewed,
figured 7% maybe.
it's a little skewed because they actually because they were offline for so long in 2012, they had a really bad year.
I see.
But if you look at 13, 14, you can see that.
Right.
It's going up.
Why, I see that expenses, in 2012, expenses were extraordinary for the numbers anyway, 324.
That's when they brought the retort.
Okay, so that's when they,
Yeah,
okay, I got
extraordinary
that.
expenses.
Why did it increase in 2015? Oh, that's estimated,
That's
because you're
estimated.
estimating in the expense of this
Right.
application?
Yes.
Okay, all right, I understand. Then the next thing I had a question about, I see the permanent maintenance fund is relatively small.
It's a small cemetery, they're
How
only
many
7
acres?
acres. They do a minimal amount of business. I think they did, 7 burials last year.
It's also mostly sold out, right?
It's mostly sold out. They're really a crematory. but,
Okay.
And ongoing, just maintenance.
And-
Quote, literally permanent maintenance.
And assuming that crematory business tanked and the cemetery had to support itself by virtue of its existing permanent maintenance fund,
That wouldn't be favorable.
no, and I note that it has not really increased at all. It was 27,000, 26,888 in 2012, only 28,734 now.
Right, that's because, like I said, that last year they sold maybe 1 lot.
What
They
about-
should be
what
doing
about-
better
What
investment
about
wise.
investment wise?
Investment wise, they mostly CDs and that, so they're not really growing that.
Should they be diversifying their, believe me, I don't know any of this stuff, but should they be diversifying
They
their
could.
portfolio?
They could.
That's
They
something.
don't have niches to support the crematory, like there's not.
No,
They ought to install some.
that would be a good idea.
Mike, you should talk to them about it.
Okay.
Well, how does the division feel about this particular application? And with the other things just hanging out there, which I think the division should, pursue with the cemetery.
I don't know, I thought it was a good project.
Let's assume their new retort does 1.5 times the business of their 2 old retorts, which I think is, Mike, that's reasonable, right? Generally speaking, a modern retort's gonna do about 1.5 times better than an old one.
That they took out in 2012,
Yeah.
comparing probably 2 or 3, those were 1946.
No, what I'm saying is, I think they still need a second retort to get back entirely to where they were.
Okay.
Let alone to expand.
So now their general fund is
I have a question about that.
Sure. Well, go ahead, you go ahead.
The last sentence is 196,009 on the first page. 196,957.
Yeah.
And the chart shows it somewhere around 114, 138, estimate 150 to 129. There's another under.
Well, 129 is net of.
That's not of the 150 that they're gonna spend. They're gonna have increased income from this new retort that I estimated, and, but you've gotta take out the 150. Right now, they've got 187,000 in their general fund, I think Mike.
Yeah, and I corrected their report, it was based on, it was verbal as opposed to, what Joe verified, it was 187,000.
Okay, so here's my thought. Why would the cemetery not wish, I think some reason why, but to put some more money into the EM fund from their general fund on a regular basis?
It's a good idea.
I actually, I can get them on the phone, if you'd like to talk.
Yeah, I think that'd be good, yeah.
Wait a minute.
Does any money go into the PM fund from each cremation?
But, no, only if the committee makes a return. It's $20 per return.
Yeah, I
Are
think
you
it's in the
suggesting that we
cemeteries.
require them to make an additional repayment for cremation?
Look, I mean, the project stands on its own. I think it's a good project, but I see a need.
Would you like to see them
I
go
see a
with the
need to
PM?
support the PM fund.
Just one more issue.
Oh,
Right.
someone's got an issue. Good. Wouldn't be fun without it.
We only have a proposal in the packet for crematory at the building. There's a 50,000 estimate for the building, but there's no proposal, right? And they don't have a bid on it. They've talked to contractors, in fact, I talked to him this morning, he could probably elaborate on that, but he said they don't have anything in writing until they get a permit. They do have a permit, but they wanna make sure that they have approval based on materials and things.
So you could condition it on our satisfaction on their plans for the building.
We're just missing the plans from the building? That's what we're missing?
Right. We have the plans for the retort, but
I
don't have
see.
a contract.
You know, yeah, actually, it's not the plans, it's the
Oh,
estimate.
we have.
They've estimated it at $50,000.
You want a hard estimate on that.
There's no contract, right?
Right.
Right.
Well, why don't we get them on the phone? Because I'd like to chat with them. It's an opportune moment.
What's their number?
Good.
You're gonna have to shout, yeah.
Good afternoon, the home shop.
Hi, this is Mike Seelman with the Division of Cemeteries.
Hi, Mike, just a second.
Thank you.
You can introduce.
Hello?
Bob Treen from
Yes.
Waterville Cemetery, you're on speaker with the Cemetery Board.
Okay.
And you're being recorded for posterity.
Right, you're officially in the
All right.
meeting. Hi there, this is Dan Shapiro. I'm chair of the board. How are you?
I'm fine. Having a good day, are you?
Yeah, I think so.
Excellent.
And I hope to continue that. We
Right.
thought we'd call and chat with you a little bit. Your project looks good. All
Okay.
right, but we were going over the fiscal structure of the cemetery. And we noted that your general fund is in relatively nice condition, but your permanent maintenance fund is not, right? Your permanent maintenance fund's pretty low.
Yeah, the maintenance fund is low. We vary perhaps, if we have 5 burials a year, it's a lot.
I understand, but the board's always concerned about permanent maintenance funds, because we anticipate that one day, when the cemetery can't support itself, that's the only thing that's gonna be there to support the cemetery in perpetuity. So we always, when we see low numbers, we just like to figure out and work with the cemeteries and try and
Okay.
see if we can bring them up. So
Okay.
I'm gonna suggest, and this I'll leave to the division, because I'm not the expert, and the board's not the expert really in how to get it done. But the fund needn't be solely supported by, the statutory contributions from interments. It seems to me that with your general fund, that you could go on a plan of growing the permanent maintenance fund all on your own volition. There's nothing wrong with throwing in a couple grand at a time to grow the fund as a rainy day account. Is that something you'd be interested in?
Absolutely. I see no problem with this. Help supplement it.
Yeah, that's, so that's something I would strongly recommend.
Okay.
You wanna tell us a little bit about the crematory project and why you think it's a good project?
Well, the crematory was built in 1891. Started out with old coal-fired retort. We switched to the oil-fired ones in 1946. They became outdated. We 3 years ago took the two of those out and replaced it with one built-on-site unit. And since we've increased our volume tremendously with being more efficient, and we've gained a considerable number of new customers since then. And we'd like to get back to the two retorts that we originally had. This particular unit here is going to have to be shut down in probably within the next 6 months to have the inside rebuilt, restoned,
Right.
and rebricked. And I don't want to be telling people we can't take care of them for 2 weeks.
Right. Now, when you go online with the two of them, what kind of capacity do you think you're gonna have off the rip, and then what kind of capacity do you project for the future?
We're online right now to do over 800 this year.
Yep.
And we've been increasing between 10 and 20% a year since we've had our new unit.
What's the capacity of the unit you have now to handle cremations?
They're saying that the capacity is basically limited by what we do.
Right.
They would suggest, probably no more than 1,200 a year.
Okay. All right, and do you expect to hit 1,200 a year in the next couple of years?
Oh, I would expect to, yes, very definitely. And the idea is that this unit is a large capacity unit. It's capable of taking 1,000-pound cremation. A new unit, we would have a smaller unit, say a 600-pound cremation capacity. And this way, we're not putting such stress on one unit.
Okay.
We figure with 2 units, we can increase the life of both of them.
Very good. Any questions from the board?
No.
Any questions from the division?
There was also the question about Bob, you don't have a contract for the price of the building?
I have prices for the foundation work. I have a $14,000 price for a poured concrete foundation with concrete floor. I've got prices of just a little over $14,000 for the materials. They've been reluctant to give me labor prices until I had a permit.
And what was the anticipated total cost of construction? 50?
I'm anticipating 50. Probably it'll have between 50 and 60 because we will add some more amenities to it other than what the architect had. His recommendation was for a 4-inch concrete floor. I've increased it to a 6-inch concrete floor simply for the sheer weight of this machine when it's rolled in there. It's 45,000 pounds. And I would rather be err on the safe of being safe than have some problem with the floor.
All right, well, what do you say that, talking to the board, that we, if we're inclined to approve, we approve capital expenditures not to exceed $60,000, and if they do, that they have to go back to the division board for approval.
I'm okay with that.
Okay. All right, so that can be the motion to approve, with that caveat. Yes?
And we know that it's a $100,000 unit on top of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, then I'd really urge you to work with the division on bringing your permanent maintenance fund up. It seems to me that you can do that without a whole heck of a lot of pain.
Right.
And just build it up over the course of years, and you'll have a very healthy PM fund in addition to a good business doing cremations.
And as Mike and I were discussing, you really ought to look at a columbarium.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to Mike first before you do it, but you really ought to look at one. I mean, if you've got all those cremations going there, there's
Right.
no reason you shouldn't be interring some of those remains right there in the cemetery.
Yeah,
Okay, I'll talk to Michael about that.
Excellent.
sounds good. Well, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
All right, take care now.
Yeah, bye now.
All right,
That's it, right?
that was a lot of fun today. I enjoyed myself.
I'm sure Harry enjoyed himself just as much.
So we've come to that point in the meeting where we open up to the floor for any comment, any discussion.
Mr. Fleming, I
Love to hear
think you
from
were just referred to as the
Anybody?
floor.
Anybody? Anything today? Do you
I
have
spent the
anything?
better part of my day with the Division of Cemeteries, so
What's that?
I spent the better part of my day with the Division of
I
Cemeteries,
heard.
so
I'm very happy about that.
I'm good at the moment, thank you.
Great, okay. Anybody else? All right, well, in that case, I will motion to go into executive session for investigative litigative matters. Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. And before doing so, we'll take 5 minutes.
Oh, I did.
Up next board meeting.
Next board meeting.
Next board meeting.
Yes, are we still trying to move the date earlier in the month?
We'd like to. We can.
So do you want to shoot for the second Thursday in August instead, August 13th?
Can we do it the first week? I'm gonna be on vacation. I don't mind missing a meeting like for the second
We
time
could
in my
do
life.
it the first week, but that's
That's
only
only
2 weeks
that's
from now.
only- yeah.
What about the third week? I got a problem.
Are you going on a 1 week vacation or 2? And I
For the
can't
first
do the
time in
last,
like
and I cannot do the last
15
week in
years.
August because I'm on vacation.
Well,
Unless you
currently-
do it at the very end of August.
Currently, I think it's scheduled for the third week.
resolution to the elected executive session. I hereby motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.